Okay, so let's get started. I want to start off with some announcements. Very important announcement. Please pay attention. Okay, so we have my website. So if you're curious on how to get your stuff on Critique Hour, well, go to Istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon here. This will take you to the subreddit. Please join it and take a look at the two announcements at the top. So we have Portrait Studio sale coming. This is an old bulletin. I will be posting a new one with more information. And we have the Holiday Design Challenge also underway, which will be due mid-December, before the 20th, before Christmas holiday. We will have the Holiday Design Challenge Critique Hour on the 17th of December, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. It'll be the last Thursday, or the last Critique Hour day before the 20th. It is to design a character, to design a creature, of any creature, but it has to be made of the same material, the same texture. So ice, snow, and any of the main translucent winter elements. Like it could be water, it could be cold, freezing water, it could be water with ice droplets in it, it could be suspended, crystallized. Snowflakes, it could be an ice dragon with snowflake texture, you know what I'm saying? It could be like a singular snowflake trapped inside a main icy body that's solid ice. So you have so much at your disposal, but it has to be the texture that is ice. So usually these design challenges are all me just tricking you into doing some texture studies. So yes, you caught me. I'm just trying to get you guys to try different stuff instead of the same old portrait, same old character, same old mystical, fantastical sword and sandals character. And we'll go back to sword and sandals. We'll get back into those cool designs like the Ancient Weapon Design Challenge. I might have a redo of that challenge, which is very, very cool. So yes, these challenges, similar to the one for the Halloween season that we just did. It's just me tricking you into doing some in a fun way. It's not in a bad trick. It's me encouraging you to try different textures. But 0 humanoids, 0 characters. Read through it. Let me know what you guys think. Any questions, please ask below. The Portrait Studio sale will start on the 20th of November. Next week, Friday, it will be live. It will be significantly less than what it is right now. It is still currently on sale. It is on a sale price right now. I've extended a courtesy sale for everyone just because the usual price is a lot more expensive, but it will be further on sale come the 20th. We usually do this for the holidays, and I just wanted to honor the tradition. It's been like 3 or 4 years now. It goes up to 50% off or 55% off around the holidays, just because everyone has New Year's resolutions for practicing their portraits, their figures, their illustrations. If you don't have Portrait Studio and you can and you find it expensive as it is right now, and the regular price probably really expensive, wait, give it a week, and it'll be at 50% off, so you guys can get it and save some money. I'll upload some promos, upload some videos. I will use it today to show you where to buy it and how to use it. Today I'll be taking a look at a 14-day challenger. If you don't know about the 14-day challenge and you're curious on how to start it, go to the community tab on my website and scroll down. There's a Q&A FAQ about the 14-day challenge. So make sure you guys hit that and read all of those questions and get all the information you need to start your 14-day challenge. Where do I post my 14-day challenge? On the subreddit. So again, Istebrak.com, and click on the Reddit icon right here. It'll take you to the subreddit, and that's where everyone's posting their stuff. If you're not getting critiques, it's because you're not giving them. People who see your name, are familiar with you, they will give you a critique, and you will get better. And it's just like free knowledge. Well, it is free knowledge, and my whole class is pro bono, but it is technically like it's like free skill. You just free skill attainment. It's like the most basic quests on RuneScape, you know. It's like the most easy thing you can do to attain some quick, dependable, real, measurable skill, and that's by stripping the portrait of all color, all accessories, no fun stuff that might distract you or make the painting into entertainment, and it'll reveal only your naked skill. And out of that, that's just that's amazing. That's an amazing thing to make a mistake. Absolutely. Fuck it up, mess it up, destroy it, do the shittiest job you can do on day one. That's one portrait closer to becoming a professional. And when you reveal all those mistakes, you expose it, you know, just like chest open and exposed to all the spears of critique, you will just quickly jump over that hurdle. How many, who has the tally on the metaphors I've used so far? 7? Have I hit 7 metaphors? And you're going to jump over that hurdle, and you're going to defeat that dragon, and you're going to finally get through day 1, and then day 2 comes around, you'll be ready, your armor will be fortified, and you'll move on. Why not? One time in grade school, my teacher got on me for using too many metaphors, and I got yelled at, and I went through a pretty solid period where I was trying not to use metaphors at all, and then I came to my senses and realized she was a bitch, and I just started using metaphors anytime I wanted. So turned me into a better teacher anyway. So let's get started. This is the piece that I picked from the Reddit community. This is where you can post your stuff to get picked. Sometimes I pick 14-day challengers and look at their work. Would be better to count the times you didn't use metaphors. We did a metaphor to tally your metaphors. The mileage will be huge, yada yada yada. Exactly. I sort of like to have fun sometimes. Okay, so let's get started. So this piece, what I do with my private students, is I ask them to paint that day 1, and then I do a little diagram for them, and I think this is the best way to kind of just get across to you guys. For those who think that it is an insult to your pride to do some form studies, let me tell you something about your pride. Your pride right now is just one frame of the great picture that you will be in the future. Your pride right now is based off who you are today. So you're proud of your current self. Meaning, I'm not going to do any simple shit. I'm not going to do any simple studies. I want to paint characters. I want to be the guy who painted the illustration and got the likes on Instagram. I want to be, I want to be the best. And right now, you don't deserve pride, in my opinion. You don't deserve to worry about pride. You don't deserve to wonder whether or not your legacy is important as you are today. You're gonna go through so many phases of yourself. You're gonna look back at your old self and just cringe and be like, what was I proud of? What was I proud about? So pride is like this really, really, really heavy, here comes a metaphor, accessory you carry on yourself that you really don't need, because all it's done is actually slow down your greatness from happening, the manifestation of your greatness. So pride, ironically, comes from greatness, and having too much pride delays greatness. Isn't that so annoying, philosophically speaking, and just, practically approaching your life and how to get better at the things you want to get better at? Isn't that annoying? So pride isn't a very useful thing in your development as an artist. And if you have too much pride, and I'm saying this because I recently went through a student who has such insufferable pride, I can't get through to them sometimes, and I have to be very rough, I have to speak their language. And I just want to remind you guys that pride will make you a professional beginner. For lack of gentler terms. So shake it off, get rid of it, do some form studies, because your core shadows suck. I'm not talking about you in particular. I'm talking to that, that general, student that's out there that thinks they're too good to do a sphere. Let me tell you something about this amazing sphere, this dynamo, this wonderful thing that is a sphere. Okay. When we look at the individual sphere, we have an opportunity to understand our base tone based off the background value. So automatically, we've already made a good decision. So that's nice. It organized our approach. It gave us an idea of the silhouette. We get a good read. The sphere alone generalizes, like, I don't have an exact statistical percentage of how many shapes can be, represented with a sphere, but it's a lot, because we're an organic world full of organic shapes. There's so many things. Learning the sphere that will become easier. And then you have radial shading, which is the number one platform, the number one playground to learning radial shading is the blobs, the sphere, the suspended shapes. So if one of the most important skills to learn as an artist, piling up your values to represent volume so that it emerges from the flat 2 dimensions into the artificial 3rd dimension, which is radial shading, which you'll see in a second, all comes from the sphere. Radial shading both in darkness and in light. And then you have the understanding of, it's just a wonderful diagram. The sphere itself is a diagram of the vanishing, the vanishing lines that are, you know, the light source, that's a vanishing point. So it's a wonderful diagram on core shadows. Where do the core shadows start in relation to the direction of the light source? It is so student friendly. It remains never, you guys think that fundamentals eventually get erased away and replaced with detail. No. When I say fundamental and I say form study, it's like synonymous. It's like I'm using the same word. You guys hear two different words. I say the same word in my head. Fundamental and form study are the same thing. And the fundamentals, do we really erase those away as we start rendering? No. We actually preserve them. So I'm going to pile up the values right here really quickly. A couple brush strokes, high efficiency. And we instantly have a pop in the form. Before, after. Before, after. And that's just 1/2 of the formula. We can go in and bring our shadow as well. All right, so if you all understand the basic principle, so see, this is the thing. You guys understand, but you don't know. So you understood what I just said. You understood what I just did. You understand the logic of it. You understand. You're comfortable with the you know, the logic of it. Yes. So this is the part that looks away from the light, and this is the part that looks at the light. But when it comes down to practicing this logic, it's not there because you haven't, what's the term when one thing like absorbs another? Like you haven't absorbed the knowledge. You haven't exercised the knowledge. The knowledge isn't part of your present running skill, your current live knowledge amount that you use day to day when you sketch, when you drive, when you just live your life. You understand it, but it's over there. It's away from you. It's not part of the way you think. Because if it was, and you understood the basics, and you did enough form studies, and you really were the genius you thought you were, and again, I'm being rough with this person. I have nothing against you. I'm being rough with all of you right now, collectively. If you were as smart as you thought you were, if all of you were as smart, you would never have allowed shadows to exist on the side of the head like that. Because it's the equivalent of throwing in the shadows from this character, from this part of the sphere up here. That makes no fucking sense. So trust the spheres. Trust it when it tells you that, you know, there is no shadow at the top. If you trust the method of radial shading, then there should be no shadows on the side of the head. Right, so I'm creating complete distinctions between the top of the head and the bottom of the head. I'm not even thinking about the characterization because there's different layers of painting a character. There's the form, there's the anatomy and whether or not it's human, and then there's the character, whether or not it's any particular trope. So we're working in layers. I'm critiquing in layers. So I'm critiquing the first layer, which is the form. Does this make sense as an object in space? What a strange question to ask artists that are obsessed with characterization. They're obsessed with the character. They're obsessed with adding the who and the when and the love interest and the protagonist and the blue hair. And they're so obsessed with all of that. God forbid we ask them to not think about the character for just 30 minutes of the painting process just so they can treat it as a functional form. All right, so we're working on this shape as if we are paying attention to this object here. Seeing where the object's shadow starts, I call it the beard shadow. Don't care about the mouth, don't care about all of that. It's easier, you know, when you haven't painted the mouth, so you don't have to worry about painting away the details you mistakenly did too early. If you had just painted, let's focus on the sphere in the first 30 minutes of your painting before rushing into characterization. But sometimes most of you, all of you, have to edit post-detail phase and you have to revert back to an earlier stage. So now I'm smudging this, and I really cannot tell if it's male or female, but I'll talk about characterization later. Next thing is anatomy. All right, so it's not always about the sphere. It's whether or not we have a human in front of us. So I'm going to just push in. So this is the second layer of critique. It is always about the sphere. My mistake, but it's not about the sphere anymore. It's not just about the sphere right now. It's about both the sphere and its assistance, as well as the anatomy and the details and the exceptions to the rule that the anatomy does. It's not exceptions with the core shadow, exceptions in the fact that it's not a smooth surface, it's not a perfect basic shape. We're not floating ovals. Just yet in evolution anyway. Right, so I need the jaws to stick out. I'm gonna decide on, it's so hard to know what the hell gender this is. Which does anybody know? Can anyone track it down? I'm gonna decide on female just because I always encourage you guys to draw the female first. It's no, you know, men over women or anything like that, or women over men, but it's just female is more in demand commercially at the moment. I always draw women. Women in fashion. Women are beautiful. Women are fun to look at. Women get you hired for art. People want their waifus drawn. Male. Yeah, reading is an uncanny, even elven alien in the minute. At the minute, which borrows from both sexes. And if it's a man, that's a lot more changes, right? That's why I want to just choose it as a female. I think it is supposed to be a male. I'll try to do both. I'll try to do both. All right. So what I did was very basic. I found the jawline and emphasized it, and thinned out the neckline so it feels less like a bodybuilder's neck on a nerd's head. You know what I'm saying? You're confusing your tropes here. If you don't know about tropes, just go to my YouTube channel, go on the video search and click tropes or characterization. Write down tropes or characterization or a word, any keyword, and usually I title all my videos based off the topic. Okay, so now it makes a little bit more sense. As for the eyes, I've always told you guys to please not ever paint the pupils in the iris unless you're ready for it. What you're doing with the pupils in the iris is abysmal, because what it's done is it's completely eclipsed over the fact that you have no idea what you're doing with the structure of the eye. The mechanics of the eye is shot because you were so, you were distracted, you were confused, you were befuddled. Is that a good word? Into thinking the eyes were done. When we get rid of it, the eyes aren't done. The eyes should look done without the pupils in the iris. Write that back to me. Okay? So we fixed that. We got rid of that. And then what I'm going to do now is just readjust the placement of each feature so that it is in the front part of the face. All right, and then the tip of the nose should not be so divorced from the nostrils because it's all one system. And I'm going to widen the nostrils to sit in between the inner lines of the eyes. The mouth has no cupid's bow, but has an extreme cupid's bow dip on the lip itself, but no upper cupid's bow. So I'm going to allow both to exist there. All right. And then because I decided it to be female, and I've done so many male faces already, just look at the video history and you'll find a male face. I'm just going to go to a female face now. The female face here, it's a pushed down inner eye corner, upward outer corners of the eyes. So a downward slant and almond shape. It's like they say almond shape, but who actually just holds almonds in their hands all day? Like, what the hell is an almond shape? I just remember oval. You know, like, is it the oval with a pinched end? Is it a teardrop shape? Like, I hate people who say almond shape. I hate when I say almond shape. Because what the fuck is an almond anyway? Last time I interacted with an almond, it was in slices and it was in a pastry. Who goes around memorizing almond shapes? Come on. And I'm just gonna kind of just use that bloat tool on the nose bridge, because I talked before about a silly little overly thin nose bridge. It looks like cheap plastic surgery. It looks like your plastic surgery costs $5. It's really bad facial structure when you have a thin nose, because it doesn't make sense to the function of a nose, which is for air passage and scent and taste. The universe would not have given you such a tiny little passage for so much of your senses. And so usually the nose is proportionate to the width of the face. It's not something that is extremely slender. In fact, having a slender nose like that is a disability, is a dysfunction. Just like not having a functional jaw, you no longer can eat. You can't chew your food. You have to have a bag attached to the side of your body. Did you know that people who have jaw injuries never eat again? Extreme jaw injuries. So these things are part of function. When your character looks like it can't even breathe, it can't even eat, when your jaw is off, when the nose is off, it doesn't look realistic. So realism is function as well. The character has to look like it can function as a human being. Right? So that super thin nose, you don't see noses like this. Noses are more often bigger than smaller. All right, so before, just for the structure and the head structure and all of that. After, small changes, but massive impact. All right, because it's a female, I'm going to move the nose and mouth closer together. This is a good male face for the typical template, but it's a good male mouth, sorry. But for a female mouth, you really do have to kind of thicken the upper lip a little bit for it to read as female. I want to keep the expression because it's part of the characterization. The next thing that you're doing wrong is that as important as the sphere is, the cube is important as well. The cylinder is important. Each of these is like a trial, you know, like you're the protagonist in a fantasy story, and the first trial is the sphere, the second one is the square, then the pyramid, you know, that each one comes with a cool like magic, you know, that you add to your itinerary, you know, your artillery, is it your arsenal, you just get stronger as an artist. So make sure that you are personally intimately aware with all of these major, you know, like gods of geometry, these shapes. So then we have the sides of the nose, and then the square, the cube that I'm talking about. The sides of the nose all the way down to the nostril should be the same value, if not very, very similar in proximity. And then the bridge of the nose, nice and full, nothing silly, no cheap plastic surgery. And that's how I can tell from a mile away that someone's had plastic surgery, because they go straight for the bridge. It's like, leave the fucking bridge alone. Leave the thickness of the bridge alone. Unless it's like extremely bloated for some reason. Best, you know, like if you want to change anything, it's like the width of the nose or the downturn of the nose, or like a bump in the nose usually are the things people change. But whenever you touch the nose width, that's when it looks like, God rest his soul, Michael Jackson nose. All right, and so we have the sides of the nose, which we've now revealed as value sharing, because once we use edge work to create a distinction between all these planes, face, side of the nose, bridge, top, side of the nose, face, we can see that, you know, the contrast is just too much. So we minimize the contrast. Adding shadows on the side of the nose does not make the nose look more 3D. Write that back. The cranium, before I get ahead of myself, I'm just going to add more size to the, oopsie, to the head at the top. Ah. All right, so her head shape was extremely, extremely short. And that is another disability. Did you know? You guys are not painting functional humans. You guys are painting the result of bad sketching, zero reference, lazy effort, honestly, because there's just the internet. You have so much information at your disposal. Like, imagine back then when all you had were like Warcraft, gamer, you know, clippings off of magazines and game posters you stole from Blockbuster when you returned the thing, or you know, like whatever you could find in printing in the school lab, or whatever is accessible in the school library to get your references. There was no internet back in my day. Back in my day, when you needed a recipe for something, you watched the Food Network and you had a notebook in your hand. Do you guys remember that? Now you guys just Google it and you get like a hummus recipe right there in front of you. Do you know how hard it was to get a hummus recipe without having to talk to 17 Iraqi women and find the average recipe between all of them? All right, you guys have so much information. That's why I will always call it lazy. I'm being mean, but whatever. Alright, so I gave the head some size. Fix some more. And now for the eyes, I'm going to try to go for an extensive critique because I've got 30 minutes. It's a lot I can do in 30 minutes. So I'm going to go for the eyes. What you have here on the eyes is like an excessive shadow. Like you just put a shadow there because you knew you had to put one there. But what's the shadow doing? What's the shadow for? So technically, there wouldn't be any shadow on the eyebrow on the outside because that's usually where we have some light peeking through on the brow bone. The eyebrow hair is not a dam for light. It lets light on top and over it and under it. And so like this shadow right here just sits right on top, but we obviously don't paint away the eyebrow. And then get into the habit of giving every plane one clean value. Just one clean value. One clean value for the eyelids. One clean value for the lower eyelid. And we'll adjust it later. If you start blending while you're blocking, well, that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Why is blending and blocking at the same time a mistake? Why is it a horrible mistake? Anyone want to answer? It's the rack and the tail of the printer paper. Exactly. I like drawings for misrepresent and reference for value sharing. Muddies up your values. Muddies up your values. Value sharing. Why does it muddy up the values? Because you could compromise your blocks and mess up the form before you've established the form. Beautiful answer. Exactly. Well, really well put. So when you're blocking and you're blending at the same time, you're blocking so you can blend later. If you block and blend immediately, you've lost your block to reference it for the next block that's coming in. Each block references the one before it. So if you have one area blocked, what the hell is that going to do for you? Nothing. You have to have the entire array of blocks accessible to your brain so you have a good estimation on whether or not you use darks too early, too much darks in one area, too much contrast. So you compromise. That's how you compromise it, because you're blending as you're blocking and therefore no longer have the blocks that you pursued as a form of reference for your future choices. So never blend as you block. Block and then blend at a later time. So I only blended this area just because I was focusing on one area at a time. But in this particular eye, I haven't started blending yet. I'm blocking for the most part and cleaning. Clean blocks, one value per plane. If you don't know what the planes are, look up a sorrow head, look up low poly head, look up, try to paint a head with just the planes, no features, nothing, no blending, just the surface planes and their changes across the board. All right, and then we have like a crease, a little crease. And again, I say it again, this is how I measure the skill of an artist. If there is no crease, that artist has a lot of changes ahead to their, you know, it's when I start assigning heavy duty homework. It's when I start assigning like 20 eyes in a week. It's very aggressive in private tutoring just because I know that, you know, it's a representation of how I teach, of course, and I want the student to improve. But it's true that if without this mileage, they're not going to improve. So it's a very sad you know, day when I only assign one eye study and expect them to learn and become masters of the eye socket in one eye study. That's horrible. So I assign like tons and tons and tons of eye studies until I know that the thing they're the best at the face is the eye socket. And once they have a good idea of when to stop their brush, when to erase it, when to expand, when to blend, then I'll know tackling a nostril, it's going to be a walk in the park. Tackling the blending of the nose bridge, easy peasy. It's painting the eye socket that really defines your control over your paint. And I've done so many classes on it. If you guys want to look it up, Radial Shading, the eye socket. I did a whole class on the eye and the eye socket. Just Google, not Google, do a video search, video history search on my page and just search up the eye socket. But I'll give you a quick rundown. But just because I'm giving you a rundown doesn't mean you don't go look it up if you're bad at the eye socket, especially this artist. So I'm blending now because I am ready to blend. I'm blending the inside of the lower eyelid. And I'm blending the outsides of the upper eyelid, but I'm leaving the eye socket intact. And really what the eye socket is, you don't want to blend the outer sticky out most part of the eye right here. You want to leave that sharp. And the eyelid itself is also radially climbing to catch some light because it sticks out just like that. Okay, and the same thing but on the inversion. But before I do that, I want to just make sure that my bed of values is nice and soft. So I'm going to completely brush over my paint. I'm going to keep this whole area light. And then I'm going to, on a darkened layer, 100% opacity, normal mode, and low opacity. 100% colors, 100% black, low opacity. And I'm going to, just like I did with our little buddy here, the sphere, I'm going to gradually pile up my values. So radial shading on the eye socket reveals that the artist has good control over their edges and awareness of the variety of the edge that transitions along the upper eyelid. And an awareness of the contrast required to make that area read and to make it actually feel like a recessed pocket. That's why I spend so much time talking about it and encouraging students, private and public, to really take their time with the eye socket. There's different kinds of eye sockets. Learn this one, and then you'll learn the hoodie one, and then you'll learn the fatty one, and then you'll learn the one with skin folds. You just got to start somewhere. And then usually when it comes to commercial art, when I say commercial art, I mean hybrid anime, League of Legends splash type of stuff. The kind of stuff you see in games. The kind of stuff you see in really simplified realism in some games. Most games don't try to pursue tons of realism, but those half in, half out realism games, that's pretty much what I mean. It's just, this is the template for it. Usually all eyes look like this, and it's good to practice this template. Then I'm going to smudge the lower part of the eyebrow, smudging the eyebrow and using a bigger smudge brush on the nose bridge so it looks a little less slender. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my blocks and then just try to block in that contrast for the eyelid, for the eyelash line, moving into the eyelid. This is a pretty extensive 14-day challenge piece, but I feel like, you know, this is going to be one of those pieces that I reference a lot because it's really taking a day 1 and making it look like a day 14, which I think a lot of you need. For anyone who finds themselves without as much critique as they need, reference this video. Reference it to your friends, reference it to those who are trying to learn the 14-day challenge, those who are trying to critique. A little bit of a value drop underneath. I'm going to grab the background value only because it's a nearby lighter value. There's no significance for why I picked it. I just don't feel like going in here. And I'm using it on the waterline. And the waterline is, the eyes are pretty squinted, so I have to fix that, and they're pretty long. And I'll fix that too. And then I'm going to just throw in a nice big block on the inner. And I should be zooming out, but I know the resolution is off. Inner corners, get a nice big block of light. And then you guys need to stop drawing this kind of like sunflower seed shaped eye. The eyelid stops at a certain point. It doesn't just keep going and meets at a cartoony corner out here, and the lash line expands past that point, so it's like upper eyelid, lower eyelid. Okay, so why are we trying to learn faces? You know, what's the point? It's I don't know, you know, what is the answer? We're trying to draw our characters. We have people in our head that we want to draw, characters that we imagine. We like to draw for some reason, and apart from us, there's really no technology out there that takes pictures of what we see in our mind. So art is that The only thing that allows people to see what's in each other's minds. Isn't that crazy? It's the only way we can take a picture of our imagination. And until there's a way to take a picture of someone's mind and see their dreams projected on a TV screen, and then at that point art will become obsolete. And then imaginers is going to be the new artist, people who can imagine well. But until that madness happens, and I doubt that will ever happen, the mind is a private thing. I might be wrong, you know, who knows? But until then, we are important members of society. We bring people's visions to life, and we can't do that if the people we draw look like aliens and not like humans. So it makes a lot of sense now why we all need to learn how to draw a face, especially those who want to work in the industry, work in commissions. All right? Because the human form is universally universal, universally the number one symbol in culture in the world, and its application is basically limitless for our personal application and client application. Thank you, Skyward. And knowing how to draw a face helped to draw everything. Yes. Face is a playground for all form knowledge. I'm just blending out the inner eyelid, the inner lower eyelid, so it looks like fat lives there, and it does. I'm going to blend out here too. And then for the nose, the issues here is that you don't really have a highlighter for the sides of the nose. Every face is different. This is just for the sake of the template. And that helps us identify that upper lip highlighter. Don't extend it all the way out here because it'll just look like a duck lip. And careful with that nose cast shadow, because you just want it to be moderate. So, yes, I have torches today. Yeah, thank God. So the nose cast shadow, you never want it to be past this point, because any point past this point, look at the shadows of the eyes. So when you guys have these really long nose shadows that make no sense, this is what should be happening with the eyes as well. All right, so just take a look at that nose, take a look at the nose shadow, and the eyes, take a look at the mouth. So this is the best ideal spot right here. We like to see ourselves in art too, absolutely. Okay, and then we're carrying up into the side of the nose and then blending that out. But we don't blend out the edge, we just apply it to the side of the nostrils. And then we've got this really bad brush work. I can see small little brush strokes from a brush that is way too small to be used on the chin. The rule is whenever you get near the chin, get near the cheeks, get near these large areas, what's a tiny little brush like this gonna do for you? If you're just sitting here doing this, if you paint like this, if this is something you do, this is horrible. And it's up there with the worst beginner mistakes. If this is how you're blending, forget the tone I'm using. I'm talking about the technique. It's horrible. You can't do this. You can't do this technique, even if you're just using the right value, even if you're using the right color, because you're leaving behind this grain. First of all, this grain is going opposite to the actual grain of the forehead. If it goes in any direction, it should be like this, so it feels like we're wrapping around a volume. So you're throwing off the grain of the... It looks like shit. It looks horrible. It looks terrible. It makes a face look just really, really patchy. It throws off your edges that you worked so hard to do if you did them. It doesn't look painterly if that's what you think, if that's what you're saying. It's not a style if that's what you think. All right, so blend it out so it looks like fat, because if someone's skin really did look like that, they've either been smoking 40 years, or they have extreme sun damage, or some kind of skin issue. Not that that's a laughing matter. All right, so you're throwing off the texture of skin is what I'm saying. So use the smudge brush to blend it out. And if you don't have a smudge brush, it's on my store. It's my number 4 smudge brush. You use it with smudge tool, and it just does the smudging for you, and it kind of scatters it. But at the same time, you do have to obviously apply it and move your brush and choose what you want blended. And keep the strength low for it to work well. If you want intensive smudge, raise the strength. All right. So this is what I mean when I say your day 1 and day 14 should have this much of a difference between them. Because you're trying to learn all the science that you're supposed to be representing in a face, which is the smooth skin, and skin as a texture needs to be smooth. The cylinders of the features so that they look functional. The fact that you need geometric anatomy so the head looks like it belongs in this universe, that it looks like it's a blocking light, it looks like a three-dimensional object. The characterization and whether or not your character looks like a recognizable gender, a recognizable age, that it's not uncanny. All of these fundamental rules should have been ironed out by the time you get your day 14 done. If you aren't aware of these, even these fundamental, those words, if you're not aware of these terms, stop what you're doing and start watching some 14-day challenge critiques. Start critiquing other people, looking at their work, looking at what they're doing wrong. Yes, you can critique even though you're not quote unquote good yet, because you're still a human being who's seen other faces. You've seen other faces, right? You know what looks off. So I'm gonna just apply the neck shadow now, a little generously at first, and then I'll erase away. Also done radially. So I've answered the question, why draw faces? I've answered the question, how to make it look three-dimensional. We've answered the characterization question. We've answered how to detail. We've answered radial shading, answered blocking. I want these videos to be like the motherlode reference point for what you need, your little toolbox, your little equipment, your starter kit for 14-day challengers. Quit the pupil and the iris. Perfect the realism that comes from the mechanics of a feature. All right, so now it looks like it's a little more moderate, but that's okay. We're not over detailing. And then the nose is a very simple thing. Again, if you feel like this class was too fast, you can go find videos where I've selected a feature and talked about the nose in specific. All right, so the nose should be one clean line cut through the side of the nose, cut through the nose. No little weird dip for the tip of the nose, because it doesn't work like that. The noses do this, but you're not there yet. You're not at those types of faces that are distinguished or different. You just want to just show me that you can paint the template. Perfect the template so you can get hired. Keep your values clean. The cast shadow is not as dark as the core shadow of the nose. If anything, they can be the same value, but most often than not, it is the cast shadow that is lighter, the core shadow that is darker. The core shadow is the shadow attached to the object. The cast shadow is the shadow disconnected from the object, only attached at its root, obviously because it belongs to it, but it's not on it. Sometimes it can be on it, but usually a cast shadow is casting on something. And then with the nose, very, very simple. Get your teardrop shape. You can do it on a new layer. You can do it on the same layer. Always work with as little layers as possible. If you have 17 layers for a 14-day challenge, something is fundamentally wrong with the way you think. You need to stop, take a shower, think about what you're doing to your life, to yourself, to your Photoshop file, to your RAM, and start merging some layers and just relax a little bit. It's not the end of the world to work with 2 or 3 layers, okay? You freak. 14-day challenge face, you should be generic as fuck. Write that back to me, yes. You guys are laughing. You're laughing because you do it. You're laughing because you do it. I don't know an anatomical term for it, but how do I draw the dip in the front middle of the neck without making it look too extreme? Use a large brush. Don't use a small brush. So after you've cleaned this whole mess up, you have 2 basic steps. Blend with a small blending brush this line that you added, and then blend the lower half of each nostril that you drew. Again, you can do it in a separate layer. We will use the soft brush in a second, but we just basically blocked, and now we're blending. You see this leftover outline on the top of the nose? Get rid of that. And then I'm just using the feathered edge to limit where the nose shadow is climbing into. All right, sometimes I'll lighten the whole nose, not that much, to 8%, just because I want to be absolutely sure where I bring the shadows in is the best spot. And then in a new layer, I'll just introduce the blackest black. This is just how comfortable it is for me to teach the nose or critique a nose. Also, your resolution is pretty low, so it's going to affect the range. But when I paint a nose, it's a little different just because I'm painting from scratch, my own portrait. But in a new layer, I sometimes just apply the shadows separately, the blackest point of the nose separately. If you don't know what radial shading is, if you don't know how to paint a nose, if you've never sketched a nose, if you understand the nose, but you haven't absorbed the knowledge of the fundamental shapes that helps you understand a nose better, if you know what a nose looks like but can't draw one, if you have an image of a nose in your mind but you can't seem to figure out how to make it look like that on the paper, form study, form study, form study, form study is the answer to all those questions. I think. I lost track of the questions I was asking. But yes, in essence, form study is the answer to all those questions. And then we feather out the cast shadow because it shouldn't be too harsh. And then for the mouth, again, very simple, very simple. What's the fundamental shape that generalizes a mouth for us? A cylinder. So if we understand how to shade a cylinder in open top-down lighting, top half of the cylinder gets light, the bottom half gets shadow. And that's how we get a realistic mouth. Right, and it's okay if all you have is a blob because we will bring in the dark spots later. And these sketch lines are fine. It's okay to sketch beforehand. Just cover up your lines eventually. Have some shame. Have some decency. Cover up your lines. Alright, and then just sharpening this area. Sharpening that. Leaving a nice little doot there and a doot there. And that'll be the edges of the mouth. Little dots. An overblended mouth is a well-rendered mouth. So I'm trying to ask the questions that come to mind. I'm sorry if I'm not answering every question. This is kind of like a blitz class. Like it's, don't have time to answer personal questions as much as I'd love to. Just because my limit is 6 p.m. and I try to hurry up. It's also my weekend, so it's time to party. I'm joking, I don't party. I'm one of those people that says they party, but I have no idea how to party. I don't know. What do you do when you party? Could somebody give me like a quick 14-day challenge list for how to party? Because I really don't know how to do it. But you shouldn't be partying. It's a pandemic. All right, and so I'm just cleaning up here. And then, for me, a party, do you want to know what a party is for me? A party for me is playing music and cleaning the kitchen. As if any of us nerds would know that. That's so true. As if any of us introverts would know how to party. Radial shading also is applied to the corners of the mouth with a big brush. But the big, you see how I just added some paint? Do you guys see that? It's a very small amount of paint. But it's needed because it starts the transition. So that the mouth looks like it's a part of the face. Alright, and then sometimes you can darken the upper lip if you'd like, just so you have more definition. Sometimes you can keep it like this, no makeup, zero makeup. Usually for females, you kind of want to exaggerate the Cupid's bow a touch, just because it's part of that cute baby face look. And then we've got some light on the top of the mouth, just on the that white outline that's around every mouth. And then the highlighter at the top. You've got some slight dewing, like it's like dew or drool. It's not dew, it's drool. But it's required because it's part of the function of the mouth on the edges of the mouth here and there. Again, this is the generalized face, general beauty, general female, super, super nondescript general female. Sounds like an army general. It's a girl and they just name her general female. They just they get right to it. General female, president female. President Kamala female. Vice President Kamala female. It's clear that it's my last day of work and I'm burned out. My jokes are burned out with me. Kitchen side party are the best. Yes, exactly. You just have a party in the kitchen. You just stand around, have some food, dance, wash some dishes, watch somebody else wash some dishes. It's great. That's my kind of party. Hell yeah. Somebody mops. Somebody's dusting. Somebody's sweeping. Shit, why don't I host cleaning parties? Those are the best. Alright, and then just cleaning that up. Smudging here. So you watched me do every single day of the 14-day challenge. So now you guys can just ask some questions so I can hurry up and answer them. Any questions I might have missed, I'm sorry, but make sure you @ Istebrak so that you can ask the question. Or just like write Istebrak. I think you don't have to @ anymore. You just have to write my name and I'll see the question highlighted. Plus I also really like seeing my name. Joking. Alright, and then I'm just going to push the radial shading of the mouth just a little. Oh dear. Did it freeze? That's okay. That's okay. No, it's okay, Photoshop. It's cool. At least you waited. At least you waited till I was done the class and then you froze. Thank you. Thank you. Would you do one of these tutorials more revolved around fleshy tones rather than just value? Possibly in the future if it comes up, but I've done a lot of critiques on, just because it's a critique doesn't mean it's not a tutorial. Okay, Omega? A critique is still a tutorial. You just have to Google I mean, I keep saying Google. You just have to look at my video history and search up skin tones and you'll see it. Heck, just go to YouTube and search Istebrak skin tone. Istebrak skin. Alright. And oh, this is old. This is old as hell. But right here, this is a good one. I talk about what makes skin realistic. Or I just adjust those pieces. That's mine. I think that's mine too, yeah. I don't know what's mine and not mine anymore. Over here, I fix the skin tone even though it's not the face. So I'm trying to, this didn't unfreeze, so I want to show you the before and after. Not responding, eh? Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. This is a lecture where Istebrak critiques a person's art and gives us lessons. Wrong search bar. Did it save? No, it did not. Because the mouth is not finished. Well, I have most of it, I guess. And that's okay. I think it did save. Oh no, it didn't. The corners of the mouth didn't save. That's okay. So, so if I can find the piece. No, that's from today's class. There it is. Okay. So we have before. Okay, so if you were going for male, that's okay. I said I do male and female, but I don't have the time to adjust one. I've done that already in a previous video. I've covered what makes male look male and what makes female look female. All right. We made the face look more three-dimensional. We made the face follow the light source. I suggest a little more contrast, but that's okay. On mine. I'm critiquing mine, so maybe I would put a little more contrast. Oopsie. So I drop it somewhere here, just so that it's not dull skin, but you know, a little more contrast, because we don't have the pupils in the iris, so we'll get contrast when we add it in. The head was very short. We made it a female, so there's that change. The tip of the nose was too high. The mouth was good. I just moved it up and added some form to it by adding core shadows. So this is, I guess, a really good female 14-day challenge critique. Istebrak, when's the next after hours? I have no idea. I've been struggling with a lot of personal stuff and I haven't had time to sit down and draw. Honestly, I don't even know if I can draw anymore. She said after doing an hour of critique hour. I don't know. Drawing for yourself is very different from teaching, because there's so much pleasure in teaching, and that I can do very easily. And lately, I don't know, I've just not been a very creative person. I'm trying my best to get back into it. I am dealing with that same medical pain that I've always had, but I feel like all in all, I've done very well. And I feel healthier and stronger. There's less back pain all around on average. If it was a graph, it would have been like half of what it used to be. And I'm very happy and very, very grateful. And I hope like I can start doing critique hour after hours as soon as I feel better. I know after hours is a way to like feel better. Just by doing it, I feel better. But I just don't. I want to wait until I feel much, much better before I do a critique after hours and then disappear another 3 months. Although I get back into it, I really want to get back into it. We want a kitchen party stream. Thank you, Ethan. That's so good to hear. Yes, I'm feeling much better. Thank you, Benjamin. I have, and I hope to get back into it soon. I've been trying to decide on a day to host one. An all-day stream, possibly tomorrow if there's no housework to do. There was always the fact that, you know, I had to do the housework, the deck, the interior, all of that stuff was a lot. But all that stuff is done now because there's no more warm weather to do housework outside the house. So I'm stuck indoors and I have to draw now. Okay, so I'll let you guys go. I hope you guys learned some stuff today. It didn't have to be a female. Again, you could have kept your male, but you would still have the same form requirements. You would still have the eye crease. You would still have the waterline. You would still have the lower eyelid. Using reference for 14-day challenge, it's always been a controversial subject. Just because you guys really, I've seen 14-day challenges. It's just 14 days of photo referencing, and it's a different face each time. That's not a 14-day challenge. A 14-day challenge is to perfect one template, one gender, one form. Through 14 days so that it doesn't change too much, so that your improvement is actually visible. If you keep changing the face, how are we supposed to tell what you got good at? So try to keep it one face, one type of face. Using reference is allowed technically, but it's not allowed in the way I just described, which is tons of different faces, photo referencing, copying what you have in front of you instead of merging it into becoming its own unique face. I like when you guys reference for day 1, day 2, maybe day 3, but into the rest of the days, you're not using reference. It's just you're using it to get your foot in the door so you can pick a face that you want to paint. And because it's so controversial, I've just been saying no reference. Let's just see if you can even do a crease. Let's just see if you can do a form around the nose or perfect your edges. Because you don't need references for that. You just need theory and principle and the lessons and other people's art in those lessons, and then you see how you do it, and then you try a nose. I know it's weird to try to paint a nose without seeing one, but that's the point, is that you're no longer painting the object. You're not painting the subject, you're painting the object. So you're not painting a nose, you're painting a cube. Do you get it? That's why I say reference should be limited in 14-day challenge, just because it is such a dangerous little tightrope walk. How do I know I've done it correctly? That's when you get critiqued and you're told whether or not you did it correctly. Because you do it correctly whether or not it's a cube, it's a successful cube, it's a successful nose. A stupid question, sorry, not stupid at all, don't worry. 14 days in a row, it can be 14 days in a row. It can be 14 paintings stretched over 4 months. It doesn't matter, as long as you are working with a pace you can manage. As long as you're working with a pace you can Don't feel like you're going to implode and hate art. As long as you're working with your own learning disabilities, learning style, your you know, whatever resources you have. If you're working 9 to 5 and you've got 10 kids and you really want to do the 14-day challenge, I don't expect you to do it 14 days in a row. God help you and those 10 kids. But I hope you understand my meaning is that it's based off, each individual does the 14-day challenge differently as long as they follow the general rules. The rules aren't there to keep me happy. It's not like Inktober or anything. It's not a circle jerk of rule making. The rules are impact your learning ability. So if you're using reference, you're learning less because you're not really focused on the form, you're focused on the reference. If you're using color, you're distracting yourself from your values. Use grayscale. If you add hair, you're too worried about characterization. Don't use hair. That's why the rules are there. That's why there's so many bald people all over my Reddit. That's because people are perfecting the portrait standalone without all the characterization added on top. And when we add the characterization, we eventually cover it. So if you guys want to see some of the critiques that I've done across the week, and it's all just coming from the same ideas, is that these private students are all perfecting one individual face at a time. And they're all getting really, really good at that face. Oopsie. Right, ignore the doggies. Jerk doggies. Okay, oh, this one I did with you guys. These are just some of the portraits I've done. There's this one today, which was more anime leaning. There's this one we did today. This one is with color. And so we're looking at, I hope that the students are okay with me showing their work. I hope that you guys understand the 14-day challenge is not a restriction in character style or character face. It's a restriction in elements that might distract you from learning the rules. So you can see these are all different kinds of faces, but they all had a crease, they all had a nose, they all had symmetry, they all had nostrils. That's why I'm saying you shouldn't depend too much on reference to understand what a nostril is. Go Oprah, you get a kid, you get a kid. What? Oh, you get a kid and you get it. So the Reddit isn't Bald Babies Anonymous? No. It's not baldies only, farmers only. That's not what it is. Yes, I do. No kids, barely taking care of myself is enough. Thanks for the answer. You're welcome. I kid each day of the 14-day challenge. Exactly. Oh my god. 10 kids, you expect too much from us. Yeah, you can definitely fit it in the schedule. It doesn't have to be 14 days in a row. But yeah, I'll see you guys on Tuesday at 17th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Bye, everyone.